a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is a multiplayer online battle royale game developed and published by PUBG Corporation, a subsidiary of Korean publisher Bluehole. The game is based on previous mods that were developed by Brendan, PlayerUnknown, Green, for other games using the 2000 film Battle Royale for inspiration, and expanded into a standalone game under Green's creative direction. In the game, up to 100 players parachute onto an island and scavenge for weapons and equipment to kill others while avoiding getting killed themselves. The available safe area of the game's map decreases in size over time, directing surviving players into tighter areas to force encounters. The last player or team standing wins the round. The game was released for Microsoft Windows via Steam's Early Access Beta program in March 2017, with a full release on December 20, 2017. That same month, the game was released by Microsoft Studios for the Xbox One via its Xbox Game Preview program. By 2018, the Steam version had sold over 30 million copies and held a peak concurrent player count of over 3 million, making it the most played game on the platform, while the Xbox One version sold over 4 million itself. The game was also localized and released by Tencent Games in China, including 2 different mobile device versions exclusive to the country. Battlegrounds received several positive reviews from critics during both its early access period and on final release. Reviewers found that while the game still was not fully finished and had some technical flaws, Battlegrounds presented new types of gameplay that could be easily approached by players of any skill level and was highly replayable. The game received several nominations for Game of the Year and other awards for 2017, and is considered the defining game of the Battle Royale genre. Several other video games, following in Battlegrounds' success, added Battle Royale-style modes, while a number of clones, primarily out of China, also appeared. PUBG Corporation has run several small tournaments and introduced in-game tools to help with broadcasting the game to spectators, as they wish for it to become a popular e-sport. Gameplay. Battlegrounds is a player versus player action game in which up to 100 players fight in a battle royale, a type of large-scale last man standing deathmatch where players fight to remain the last alive. Players can choose to enter the match solo, or with a small team of up to 4 people. In either case, the last person or team left alive wins the match. Each match starts with players parachuting from a plane onto a map area approximately 8x in size. The plane's flight path across the map varies with each round, requiring players to quickly determine the best time to eject and parachute to the ground. Players start with no gear beyond customized clothing selections which do not affect gameplay. Once they land, players can search buildings and other sites to find weapons, vehicles, armor, clothing, and other equipment. These items are procedurally distributed throughout the map. At the start of a match, with certain high-risk zones typically having better equipment, killed players can be looted to acquire their gear as well. Players can opt to play either from the first-person or third-person perspective, each having their own advantages and disadvantages in combat and situational awareness. Those server-specific settings can be used to force all players into one perspective to eliminate some advantages. Every few minutes, the playable area of the map begins to shrink down towards a random location, with any player caught outside the safe area taking damage incrementally, and eventually being eliminated if the safe zone is not entered in time. In-game, the players see the boundary as a shimmering blue wall that contracts over time. This results in a more confined map, in turn increasing the chances of encounters. During the course of the match, random regions of the map are highlighted in red and bombed, posing a threat to players who remain in that area. In both cases, players are warned a few minutes before these events, giving them time to relocate to safety. At random, a plane will fly over various parts of the playable map and drop a loot package, containing items which are typically unobtainable during normal gameplay. These packages emit highly visible red smoke, drawing interested players near it and creating further confrontations. On average, a full round takes no more than 30 minutes. At the completion of each round, players gain in-game currency based on how long they survived, how many other players they had killed, and how much damage they dealt to other players. The currency is used to purchase crates which contain cosmetic items for character customization. Development. Lead designer Brendan Green, better known by his online handle PlayerUnknown, had previously created the Arma 2 mod DayZ Battle Royale, an offshoot of popular mod DayZ, and inspired by the 2000 film Battle Royale. At the time he created DayZ Battle Royale, around 2013, Irish-born Green had been living in Brazil for a few years as a photographer, graphic designer, and web designer, and played video games such as Delta Force, Black Hawk Down and America's Army. The DayZ mod caught his interest, both as a realistic military simulation and its open-ended gameplay, and started playing around with a custom server, learning programming as he went along. Green found most multiplayer first-person shooters too repetitive, considering maps small and easy to memorize. He wanted to create something with more random aspects so that players would not know what to expect, creating a high degree of replayability. This was done by creating vastly larger maps that could not be easily memorized, and using random item placement across it. Green was also inspired by an online competition for DayZ called Survivor Games, which featured a number of Twitch.tv and YouTube streamers fighting until only a few were left. As he was not a streamer himself, Green wanted to create a similar game mode that anyone could play. His initial efforts on this mod were more inspired by the Hunger Games novels, where players would try to vie for stockpiles of weapons at a central location, but moved away from this partially to give players a better chance at survival by spreading weapons around, and also to avoid copyright issues with the novels. In taking inspiration from the Battle Royale film, Green had wanted to use safe square areas, but his inexperience in coding led him to use circular safe areas instead, which persisted to Battlegrounds. When DayZ became its own standalone title, interest in his Arma 2 version of the Battle Royale mod trailed off, and Green transitioned development of the mod to Arma 3. Sony Online Entertainment had become interested in Green's work, and brought him on as a consultant to develop on H1Z1, licensing the Battle Royale idea from him. In February 2016, Sony Online split H1Z1 into two separate games, the survival mode H1Z1, Just Survive, and the Battle Royale-like H1Z1, King of the Kill, around the same time that Green's consultation period was over. Separately, the Seoul-based studio Gino Games, led by Chang Han Kim, and who developed massively multiplayer online games for personal computers, was acquired and renamed Bluehole Gino Games by Bluehole in January 2015, a major South Korean publisher of MMOs and mobile games. Kim recognized that producing a successful game in South Korea generally meant it would be published globally, and wanted to use his team to create a successful title for personal computers that followed the same model as other mobile games published by Bluehole. He had already been excited about making a type of battle royale game after he had played DayZ, in part that the format had not caught on in Korea. He also wanted to make this through an early access model and have a very limited development schedule to get the game out as quickly as possible, while treating the product as a games as a service model to be able to support it for many years. In researching what had been done, he came across Green's mods and reached out to him. Around the same time that Green left Sony Online, Kim contacted and offered him the opportunity to work on a new battle royale concept. Within a week, Green flew out to Bluehole's headquarters in Korea to discuss the options, and a few weeks later, became the creative director of Bluehole. He moved to South Korea to oversee development. According to Green, this was the first time a Korean game studio had brought aboard a foreigner for a creative director role, and while a risk, he says that his relationship with Bluehole's management is strong, allowing Green's team to work autonomously with minimal oversight. Development began in early 2016 and was publicly announced that June, with plans to have the game ready within a year. Kim served as executive producer for the game. Bluehole started with a team of about 35 developers supporting Green's work, but had expanded to 70 by June 2017. Green stated that many of these developers were voluntarily putting in longer work hours into the game due to their dedication to the project, and not by any mandate from himself or Bluehole's management. In addition to Bluehole, Green also credits Bohemia Interactive, the developers of Arma and DayZ, for support with motion capture animations via their Prague studio. With the rapid growth of interest in the game, Bluehole spun out the entire development for Battlegrounds into Bluehole Gino Games in September 2017, which was renamed PUBG Corporation. With Kim as its chief executive officer, PUBG Corporation continued the development of the game and its marketing and growth, opening an office in the United States with plans for future ones in Europe and Japan. Design. Battlegrounds represents the standalone version of what Green believes is the final version of the Battle Royale concept, incorporating the elements he had designed in previous iterations. Faster development was possible with the game engine Unreal Engine 4, compared with Armor and H1Z1, which were built with proprietary game engines. Green acknowledged that implementing the size of the maps in Battlegrounds has been one of the challenges with working with Unreal, which was not designed with such maps in mind. The game was designed as a mix between the realistic simulation of Armor 3 and the arcade-like action focus and player accessibility of H1Z1. Based on Green's experience with the genre, an island with many terrain features was picked as the first map, known as Arangel. The map design scope was to offer players many possible options for strategic and unique gameplay. Some buildings and structures were designed to depict the style of the brutalist architecture of the Soviet Union during the 1950s. The developer team playtested architecture features and random item placement systems, looking at both how close quarters encounters went, and for open terrain areas. The goal was to optimize the right distribution and placement of weapons and gear across the map, to encourage players to make strategic decisions about how to proceed in the game without overly penalizing players who may not find weapons within the first few minutes of a round. During early access, additional maps were planned, such as one set on a fictional island in the Adriatic Sea that included snow-covered Yugoslavian territories. Green stated that he thought the Arangel map felt disjointed despite meeting their goals for gameplay, and sought to create more unified ideas with future maps. The freefall from an airplane at the start of each match was a new feature for the genre, to encourage strategy between staying with the pack of players or seeking out one's own route for a better chance at finding good loot. With the added parachute drop, Green considered that Battlegrounds had three distinct subgames: the airdrop, during which one must quickly figure out the best time to jump and where to land in relationship to the other players; the loot game of knowing where and how to gather the best possible equipment; and the combat game with other players. Players who win a match are greeted with the phrase, "Winner winner chicken dinner," an idiom that Green had used in his prior Battle Royale games and kept in Battlegrounds, which itself had origins as early as the Great Depression. Features that Green anticipates adding include custom games and modding support. He considered modding support an essential part of the full release as, just as he had his start with mods, he wants to enable others to create variations on his game so that he can find the next PlayerUnknown. Green also wants to incorporate the game with streaming services like Twitch.tv that would enable replays or other features amenable to treating Battlegrounds as an e-sport. Green had anticipated that Battlegrounds would develop into an e-sport, and this was an ultimate end goal for his development, but he wanted to let the nature of how it would play out as an e-sport grow naturally with the player community. He also plans to introduce microtransactions to allow players to use real-world funds to purchase loot crates that provide randomly selected cosmetic items, also known as skins, which they can trade with other players. While Green recognizes the issue with skin gambling, he believes that Valve has put safeguards in place to support a skin economy that will provide further revenue for them without concerns over gambling. However, by November 2017, grey market skin gambling sites began to appear, using Battlegrounds cosmetics as virtual currency. Following controversy over the use of loot boxes to offer pay-to-win items in other games in November 2017, the PUBG Corporation affirmed that while they will continue to add new cosmetic items rewarded by in-game crate purchases, they will never add anything that affects the gameplay. The full microtransaction system is not expected to be released until the game exits early access, but Bluehole offered an early preview of the system by offering time-limited crates that could be purchased During the first Battlegrounds Invitations tournament during Gamescom in August 2017, with the sales from these contributing to the prize pool. Among loot from these crates are special outfits inspired by the Battle Royale movie. Green anticipates adding a campaign mode, with cooperative player support, though there would be no serious lore crafted for the narrative, comparing this to similar modes in Watch Dogs. The game, while in early access, has already received alternate gameplay modes created by players, determined by unenforceable rules that players agreed to abide by, that have been popular with streamers. This was aided by a quiet release of custom server support to a number of influential streamers, which subsequently made it into public release. In one case, Zombie Mode, all but 4 players pretend to be zombies, who may sometimes distinguish themselves by removing all clothing and are limited only to collecting melee weapons and consumable items, and must rush to attack the other 4 players, who are able to collect all gear and attempt to outrun and defeat the zombies. Inspired by this mode, Green announced plans to introduce an official zombie-based gameplay mode based on this into Battlegrounds. Whereas most of the rest of the team continued to develop the core gameplay and maps, Green is taking on the zombie mode as a near-solo project, only using the assistance of the lead animator to help with the zombie animations. Green sees Battlegrounds as a platform, and would like to see more custom game types and mods developed by players for it. Green identified that some mods that he also previously worked on from Arma the 3rd of may become part of the Battlegrounds platform. To prevent cheating, the game uses the BattleEye anti-cheating software, which was banning more than 6,000 players a day in October 2017 and over 2.5 million players in total by the beginning of 2018, with over 1 million in January alone. In December 2017, BattleEye indicated that 99% of cheats were made in China. Windows. Bluehole used closed alpha and beta periods with about 80,000 players, including popular Twitch streamers, to gauge initial reaction to the gameplay and adjust balance prior to a wider release. Just prior to the early access phase on Steam, Bluehole opened a few servers and invited some of the top streamers of the Battle Royale genre to try it out as to start gaining interest. Early access launched on March 23, 2017, for the Windows version. This early access period was planned to last approximately 6 months, originally aiming for a September 2017 release. In July 2017, Green announced that they would need to extend the early access period by a few months, continuing to release updates on a regular basis, with plans to still release by the end of 2017, as committing to this original period could hinder us from delivering a fully featured game and/or lead to disappointment within the community if the launch deadline is not met. Initially, Bluehole had expected that they would just gain enough players through early access to smooth out the gameplay, and only when the game was completed, they would have started more marketing for the title. The sudden interest in the game from early access exceeded their expectations, and put emphasis on the stability of the game and its underlying networking alongside gameplay improvements. Through August 2017, these updates generally included a major weekly patch alongside major monthly updates that provided key performance improvements. However, from August onward, Bluehole backed off the rate of such patches, as the high frequency has led to some quality control issues, and the developers rather make sure each patch content is well vetted by the community before providing new updates. This did not change their plans for a 2017 release, where it fully released out of early access on December 20th. In part of the game's success in early access, Tencent Games, the largest publisher of video games in China, approached Bluehole that same month with an offer to publish Battlegrounds in China and purchase equity in the company. However, the China Audio Video and Digital Publishing Association issued a statement in October 2017 that discouraged Battle Royale-style games, stating that they are too violent and deviate from Chinese values of socialism, deeming it harmful to young consumers. The following month, however, PUBG had reached a formal agreement with the Chinese government to allow the release of the game in the country, with Tencent as the publishing partner. However, some changes were made to make sure it aligned with socialist values and traditional Chinese morals. Despite the lack of a Chinese publisher prior to the Tencent deal, players in China had found ways to acquire and play the game through Steam via proxies and other networking tricks. The large Chinese player base had led to some technical and community problems with the game. From a technical standpoint, while PUBG Corporation offers various servers in different geographic regions, they have not used region locking, thus allowing players from disparate regions playing in the same matches. The network latency has caused issues in-game that make some characters, rubber band, appearing to be moving to one location before network synchronization that causes them to snap back to a different position. With the game out of early access, PUBG Corporation seeks to eliminate this effect to make this rubber banding less pronounced. To address the technical problems, PUBG Corporation plans to add maximum client ping limits for servers, which can reduce the issues with latency problems and prevent some of the cheating that has occurred. This would not prevent cross-region matchmaking, but may make it difficult for some players to play outside their region if they have a poor internet infrastructure. Tencent has also helped by identifying and reporting around 30 software programs to Chinese police that can be used to cheat in Battlegrounds, leading to over 100 arrests by the beginning of 2018. Separately, this technical issue, in addition to the large number of Chinese players, has created complaints in the player community. Some Western players fear that many Chinese players are able to cheat in the game by exploiting some of the network latency issues, something that PUBG Corporation continued to address as the game shifted out of early access. However, a small number of players called for server segregation by region and had used racial insults at Chinese players they encounter in-game. Green was disappointed with this xenophobic attitude, calling it disgraceful, and asked the player community to respect the Chinese players more, as their numbers were a key part of the game's success. Brought to you by WikiVidi documentaries. Would you like to know more?